Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Guile here, and welcome back to another Supreme Commander epic. It's going to be 5v5 business today on a generated map featuring mostly Joes, but a couple of pros, so to all intents and purposes, it is average Joe's day today. Those masters of mediocrity return once again to show us why they are so intimately equated with the friend zone. And who am I kidding? That's all of us. The girls are many things, but they're not necessarily enjoyers of massive metal monster mayhem in the RTS fashion. But anyway, we are, so we'll get on with it. We will call this Team 1 up here at the top, this Team 2 down here at the bottom. We'll give them some time, allow them to gate in, and we'll make our all-important introductions. Starting at the top of the screen over here in mellow yellow, we have Twitchy Mofo. He's going Seraphim, opening first land. Team member number 2 for Team 1 down here in burgundy red, we have Brittle, another Seraphim. He's also going first land. Finishing up with the front row for Team 1 down here at the bottom left in baby blue, it's Lol Roffle. We're going to call him Roffle today because it's just easier. He's going Aeon, opening first land. And onto the back row, still on the main landmass over here in Spetsnaz green, we have C2118 Freedom. We're going to call him Freedom today, and he's going Cyber and Bless him, opening first land. And last but not least, all by his lonesome on this little island at the back over here, possibly handling rearguard air position, if there is such a thing. Going Aeon, sensible decision if there is such a thing, and going first air, it is Count Swagular, and I'm going to give him the award for the amusing name this week. Well done to you, sir. He's gone Cyanide Cyan. Let's check out Team 2 now, starting over here at the bottom of the screen in baby pink. We have Waketha, another Seraphim, also going first air and opening to second land after that. So double second land after first air. Team member number 2 over here in regal purple, it's Tesla Max, another Seraphim. This really is a plethora of Seraphim players today, sporting the front rows. He's going first land and going land all day by the looks of things. Last but not least, on the front row over here in Pontiff White, at the top right hand side, it's Sunoman, a Cybrin. That's because I said everyone on the front row is going Seraphim, so he thought he'd break with tradition just to prove me wrong. Going Pontiff White, going first and second land, going third air. And the back row for Team 2, Ferrari Red first of all, it's Zelda Fanboy, another Cybrin, going first air. And last but not least, on the island in Combat Green, another Cybrin, it's Hyper 2001. We'll call him Hyper today. He's going first land, second air. So, racial makeups of the two teams, we have 2 Aeon, 2 Seraphim, and a Cybrin there for Team 1, and then 2 Cybrin, 2 Seraphim, sorry, 3 Cybrin and 2 Seraphim there for Team 2. Game quality at 92%. People to watch out for, the 2 players who are of pro level today are Freedom on Team 1. He's residing over here on this little nipple. And yes, I am going to stick with that. That is my description for that nipple. It could be any other appendage, but we'll go with nipple. Does nipple classify as an appendage? Is it large enough for that? But anyway, mine certainly are. Down here for Team 2, other pro is Waketha. So he is just sitting down here in the southernmost tip. And I gotta say, hats off to the map gen. I know I give it a lot of credit where credit's due to the map gen, but especially today. Well done, sir. This could be a human sculpted map, big old kind of void in the center with these impassable mountains, but they're sitting on a kind of a shield volcano plateau with a few mexes on it. You've got 2 avenues of attack either side of that, and then 2 oceans either side, which go right the way around the back of the landmass, but don't intersect. So unless we get some Cybrin naughty walkie going on, there won't be much interactions between the 2 ponds. That's the reclaim situation. There are some decent mass puddles kicking about here, some decent numbers here to get your hands on, but everywhere else on the main landmass is very much devoid of reclaim, and there are tons and tons of mass extractors or mass points to build mass extractors on for our players to choose from. So that is very much that. Lowest rated players today, 2 1100s on Team 1, making up for that 1700 in Freedom there. That's Brittle and Count Swagular, so this could potentially be a weak point for Team 1. We'll see if that affects them. And now we can look at what our players are doing. The first phases are over of expansion. We've got comms moving out of their main bases. We've already got some presence on the central plateau over here. Freedom's thrown up a couple of one land factory, started work on another, but stopped to get a T1 PD, probably because he noticed a hostile presence from Tesla Max, who's also got a couple of land factories up down there. What's happening over on the right hand side? We've got a handful of Selen engaging some Mantis there belonging to Sanaman. Selen's not going to last too long, devoid of any backup as they are. A couple of engineers for Zelda working on a land factory on the other side of the mountains from Freedom. We're getting a distance build up the cliff there from Brittle. Certainly looks like it, however, has been discovered. Got a skyhook with an engineer or two loitering in the area, yet to make landfall though from Hyper, and a couple of engineers in the area as well for Count Swagula. Remember, that was an area where there was some decent mass to be had, lots of wrecks dotted about, so that is why they have made such a beeline for that position. What's going on down here? Tesla Max with his comm on the front line. In fact, a real confluence of commanders. We've got Roffle and Tesla there, and also Waketha. And Freedom coming to join the party also, so it's going to be a 2-on-2 comm situation by the looks of things. On that left-hand side of the mountain, what's happening over here? Sanoman and Twitchy Mofo getting all kissy, huggy. Twitchy Mofo with about 8,900 hit points remaining. Sanoman with about 8,300. Doing their Scooperson. Before getting back into some face-to-face combat. Brittle down here, also making the most of the reclaim. And there is Swagula. He's stopped at this little mass field just a little bit further back, but probably should think about getting involved, because Twitchy Mofo down to 6,500, Sanoman on 6,600, so they're actually pretty close. I know it looks like Twitchy Mofo is lagging behind, but of course he starts with more hit points, which is why Sanoman has a fuller bar than him. But look at all of that extra Cybran reinforcements pushing Mofo into the water. Sensible decision there. And now Swagula does decide to join the party, and he comes from the northwest. However, Brittle moving up also. You know what? I think we need to go to split screen, because all sorts of action is kicking off. It really is a story of two theaters. We've got that in the west and that in the east. Either side of the mountain. We are seeing as well, if you glance to the minimap, some presence in the naval game. Got Waketha with some naval yards up and running, and already a frigate moving up the coastline. Lol Roffle has a couple of naval yards. And on the other side of things, right up in the top right-hand side in the Eastern Ocean, Twitchy Mofo with 4 naval yards in play already. Sanaman getting himself an upgrade. Was that a gun upgrade? It is indeed. Zelda giving him some assistance. Swagula a stone's throw away. Is he coming to try and disrupt this upgrade? Probably going to struggle. Upgrade looks like it's about 30-40% done. Zelda fanboy bringing his own commander in now to engage Swagula. Ooh, Swagula taking a lot of damage now, combined from that ACU of Zelda and all of that T1 spam inbound from Sanaman. He is getting some assistance though, however, coming in from Twitchy. Brittle now bringing his comm into the fight also. Sanaman's upgrade completes. A lot of extra damage potentially now on the field for Team 2 in that Eastern Theatre. Brittle still unupgraded. Count Swagula very close to death at 1,400 hit points, making a play for the water now. And Zelda actually letting him go. Interesting decision like he might have got himself a kill there if he'd been a bit more persistent. Twitchy Mofo getting himself a second upgrade. That's T2. He's completed the gun. Back in on the combat now. Down here, Brittle going 2v1 right now, trying to hold the field all by his lonesome. His two teammates on this right-hand side have been badly damaged and pushed off into the ocean. Meanwhile, Freedom rooted to the spot over in the Western Theater, getting his first gun upgrade. He does complete that, but look at the damage Tesla Max has wrought on this forward position. 3 dead land factories already. He needs to get a wriggle on, get moving, get microing, because you're just absorbing unnecessary damage from all of these Zuis. Get your races right, Guile. Freedom in full retreat now. Forward position well and truly in tatters. Looks like Brittle might be backing up also in the face of Sanoman and Zelda. This looks like it's going rather well for Team 2 at the moment. Potential breakthroughs on both flanks simultaneously, and even a run-by into the forward base of Roffle here from Wekther. Not a huge quantity of units, and no operational Zuis or light artillery to dish the real damage, but still definite bleed here. And not only that, frigates breaking through down here. 1 destroyed naval factory out of 3, and the 4th one never got built, whatever unit of build capacity. Poor soul was working on that. He is, alas, no more. Sanoman advancing up towards the top right-hand side of the screen. Twitchy Mofo's base looking very open and vulnerable. Does have a little tank platoon over here next to these 5 land factories. Twitchy Mofo, having completed a T2 engineering suite, just pops his head out of the water and throws down a couple of units of point defense, and that should be enough to persuade Sanoman to back away, I would have thought. So things going well in the Western Ocean for Team 2, but Team 2 making no play as yet in the Eastern Ocean. Not a single attempt at a naval yard. So if Twitchy Mofo really invests here, he could make some real gains from the coast. That might be a bit of an open goal. We'll see if they get involved with it after the first frigates turn up from Team 1 on that side of things. Yeah, horrible mistake in my mind not to at least try and contest it. Look at this. T2 land factory, which is currently upgrading towards T3, is all that's left, more or less, of that main base. We have 1 T1 air factory and 1 T1 PGen, but everything else has been destroyed. Roffle is essentially homeless. He's pulling in 17 mass per tick. He's lost his naval yards. He's lost all resourcing options in the main base. There's just a line of mass extractors here that belong to him. 1 T2, 1 very badly damaged back there. But what's going on over here in the east? This constant non-stop action. Zelda, whose first upgrade was a stealth upgrade. Interesting. No extra firepower or anything like that. Just wants to be mysterious in the shadows. Mantis pushing up forward through this forward outpost of Twitchy Mofos. Only 2 damaged factories remain. Now Sanoman turns his attention to the coastline where Twitchy Mofo had been trying to erect some defenses. They were operating without much counterfire initially. Able to pick off some of Team 2's spam in the area over here, but eventually I guess they killed 1 too many units. This is a full-on batting collapse meanwhile in the west. Roffle's base absolute pieces. Team 2 need to finish off that land factory. Upgrade towards T3 has been sensibly abandoned. Freedom drawing a little bit of fire on his commander, distracting those units away from that land factory, but I think it might just go down. Maybe. Yeah, there it goes. Look at that. And to make matters worse, Wekther looking very strong on this attack on the western approaches, and if Wekther can shut down Freedom, that's Team 1's one and only pro muted and to all intents and purposes out of the game, which is why he's focusing so hard now on this position. He can kill off these naval yards, one of which has transitioned to T2, already working on destroyers. Engineers have thrown together some torpedo launchers, but the forward momentum from Team 2 shows no sign of abating or slowing down. Have got some Ilshivers guarding the front of Mofo's main base over here. Brittle is working on his third upgrade to his credit. He's got nano repair, he's got a gun upgrade, and now he's going for some build capacity, tech, and a few extra HP for the T2 engineering suite. Zelda has also got nano repair. 90 hit point a second regen, thank you very much. Sanoman has gun. T2 upgrade complete for Brittle. Not so brittle anymore. Got 2 units of point defense to help defend this position. Needs to focus fire on one of these chappies, surely. He's chosen Sanoman, the one with no nano repair to focus on with his comm, but losing those point defense only proved to him that he needed to back up somewhat. Roffle trying to re-establish a naval position. Zui's in the area saying, no, you will not. But he is literally baseless now, pulling in the 1 mass per tick from his suit. And that is it. We haven't actually spoken much about eco at all. It's been pretty full on the action. Where are we? So Team 2 at about 580. Team 1 at about 500 flat. In terms of total mass, Team 1 at 352 versus 342 for Team 2, which is surprising. Reclaim related? Very much so. 56k versus 40k on the reclaim in favor of Team 1, so that tells you part of the story right there. Roffle and Freedom just trying to stay mobile at this point. Wekther doing a fantastic job of splitting production between ground-based units and continuing to step up the naval pressure. Got to keep both feet on both pedals. And at some point they were able to take down the T2 naval yard belonging to Freedom. And that is a major, major win for Wekther on this campaign up this side of things. It means he has a tech advantage. You can see we've got a destroyer coming in, taking pot shots at Freedom's comm on the way past. Interesting, he's not going to go steaming ahead though. Concerned about this forward position. Personally, I would be going straight up here and trying to lock Freedom out of the naval game completely. RAS upgrade on the way for Swagula. How are our air players faring? Well, we're up to T3 air. We're producing ASFs and restorers. Hyper for Team 2. Has a few extra air factories than his mirror up the other side of the screen. Nano repair upgrade on the way for Sanoman, who's also bagged himself stealth, but I believe that will be replaced now by nano repair, occupying the same slot. And so, interesting decision. That's a little bit of a waste of resources there. It's throwing away an upgrade. Wonder what his decision-making process was like for that one. Clearly an error, but check out the arrival of siege tanks here from Brittle. Brittle's comm, who has withdrawn, I'm guessing. Where is his comm? Yeah, he's not at all. He's on the front line just northeast of Twitchy Mofo, who's currently engaging Zelda. Zelda standing firm with Sanoman. And thanks to a little bit of overcharge work, I imagine, they've carved their way through the siege tanks. But look how many are inbound. Brittle has stockpiled an enormous quantity of siege tanks, and they're currently bearing down on these two commanders. They need to be very careful here. This is a very cavalier attitude from Team 2. Oh dear. Down goes Zelda, and to make matters worse, Sanoman is right by him. I can't see a damn thing. There he is. Strolls out of the nuclear fire, but he's badly damaged. Sub 7k HP. Gets himself inside that little shield gen, but it's an unupgraded one. And Brittle coming in from the northeast as well with his commander. Sub 3k HP. Twofer. Multi-kill. Look at that play from Brittle, who's one of the bottom-rated players in this game. 1100, joint with Count Swagula. Has a monster play to take out two commanders on the eastern front and completely open this game up now for Team 1, who've been having a shocker throughout the first 20 minutes on both sides of the mountain. The only place where it did look like it was going reasonably well, I'm guessing really, is for Twitchy Mofo in the water, because he's, again, still uncontested. After all of this time, not a single naval vessel in the water on this side of things for Team 2. But now they have a very, very vulnerable front line to contend with. Wektha in command of basically both fronts now. 1500 rated player, though, pulling in a whopping 369 mass per tick. This is when they can become dangerous. Freedom finds himself locked out of the naval game in the western pond, meanwhile. We've got a horde of Zuis moving up down this left-hand side. Sporadic dotting of Cerberus turrets, though, helping to secure this side of things. And those Zuis being shadowed by a task force of bricks. They might hold on to this for a while, but we're starting to see cruiser spam mount up. And that becomes very, very difficult to deal with as time moves on. You've got no way to break back into the naval game. Your opponent starts loading up on Seraphim cruisers. You find yourself trapped in a spiral of tactical missile defense production. Much else. Oh look, a couple of people go down on your team and a Cybran starts work on a laser. Filthy people. Subhuman scum. 20% done there. I imagine we'll see a teleporter emerge before too long. Count Swagula telling Brittle to start work on a chicken. That might not be a terrible idea. Beautiful inclusion of the sniper bot there. Always a fan. Just picking apart this forward base. Formerly belonging to... is it Sanoman or Zelda? I'm not sure which one it was. Who was who. Right, we're a decent way in now, chaps and chapettes. 23 minutes or so. Let's hear you sound off in the comments section. Who's going to win which team from this point? While you're down there, give us a like. All goes towards helping ye old algorithm. This is not looking great for Freedom right now. A couple of Cerberus turrets guarding the edge, as we saw. Just close enough to the edge to engage most vessels moving up this left-hand side. They could just come in and around the back here, especially if you can get some cruisers in. Cause no end of problems. Get enough cruisers in as well, and you're going to shut down the air capabilities of Swagula. That eastern base, though, in tatters. Brittle, who's done an amazing job so far, taking down both of those commanders, and now following it up with the destruction of at least the forward base. And it looks like Mofo might handle the rear base from the sea. Goodness me, this game turned around quickly. And Roffle, who hasn't had a lot to do lately, finds himself inundated with Ilshivers. Gets himself gizzarded. There wasn't really a lot for him to do at that point. He was baseless. Might as well get in there and do some fighting. And if you go pop, well, tap to many better men and women than you, sir. And me, sir. So don't worry about it. Make yourself useful, love. Freedom locked in that aforementioned tactical missile defense spiral. We have got a couple of Gunthers who are shooting back nicely, but there goes one of them. Second artillery piece, I'm sure, will be under fire before too long. But with Roffle's demise, it is at least a 4v3 now. And it's opened up some room for Wekther and potentially Tesla Max to push the western side of Brittle's base. But Brittle listened to Swagula and did get to work on an Ithota. And that has completed in the nick frickin' time. And will successfully repel this Yenzine attack, or rather just crush it beneath his enormous metal shoe. That's a pretty hefty group of siege tanks also, but it's no match for Droidekars. In goes the shield gen, just in time. Not that the P-gens were taking any fire at that point, so that little attack shut down very neatly. Brittle playing an absolute blinder here so far. Always a joy to see the Joeyest of Joes turn up and steal the show. Freedom valiantly defending at this point. Pulling in 85 mass per tick, and admittedly, of course, Wekther is handling both fronts, so he's pretty darn busy. But Wekther still pulling in 322, and if he decides to, he can disproportionately funnel much of that eco in Freedom's direction. I think that would be the wise play if he can properly shut down Freedom this whole battle. The outcome massively favors Team 2. That Ithota we saw comprehensively defending the western approach to Brittle's base, now on the rampage, pushing out. Forces belonging to Wekther are being redirected to intercept. There's a little escort detail of siege tanks with them, although it looks like he's separating those now and pulling those back to defend the base. Sending that Ithota in on a death march, which is likely to be. Defending Ithota coming out to meet it. I imagine we'll see some gunships moving in as well, maybe. They're on deployment over here, defending in the east. And this is the one advantage that Team 2 does have, apart from, of course, the Western Ocean. The second advantage, I should say. They have an advantage over here, certainly. But the air game seems to be favouring Team 2 dramatically at this point. We've got 63 ASFs in play for Swagular on Team 1 and Hyper for Team 2 with 166. So if we get a large air battle, like for like, that's only going to have one result. And I think Tesla Max senses the advantage in the air side of things, so he has started work on an arse washer. 15,000 hit points complete there so far out of 52k. Some ways to go. A little bit of counter pressure here as well on the ground from Tesla Max. Ithota's made his way up the eastern approach and is hitting that forward outpost belonging to Mofo. Decent group of restorers would love to get involved with that Ithota, but they're highly conscious of the air deficit they're running against their opponents. Oh, how has Mofo not conquered all of this and putting pressure down here? I suppose he's been concerned with expanding out here on the ground. He is pulling in 300 mass per tick, not too shabby. Brittle out on 565. And for context, Wektha is only pulling in 435, and he's sitting in on all this territory. Brittle has solidly sat back and ecoed, whilst at the same time dealt clinical blows on the ground up here. Even found the opportunity to run an attack down here, which I think petered out in this position. That's probably his chicken wreck right there. Nothing kills off your T1 and T2 Navy more effectively than a pack of Whaler T3 gunships. Surprised Hyper's not coming in here to shut this down. Not a huge amount in the way of anti-air kicking around this area, and he can certainly afford to kick off the engagement. He has a huge advantage, but maybe he's not aware of how big his advantage is.
Strategic launch detected.
Hello! And that's going up towards the top of the screen. Out from Hyper in the backfield. First nuke of the day. Are Team 1 prepared? Do they have nuke defense in place? If they do, I'm not seeing it. Where is Mofo's comm? He is out and away from the main base, sensing that might be coming in his direction. And indeed it is, and it looks like it's going to land. 30 minutes in, SMD should be prepped. There goes Mofo's base. Was pulling in 300 and... what did we say? Was it like 340 odd mass per tick? Well, he's down to 269 now. I might have just plucked that out of the ether, that number. And there we have the engage against the Whaler gunships. We've done with that a little bit earlier. Swagular looked like he was thinking of defending those gunships and then thought better of it and withdrew. Finally, we do have some naval pressure coming in this direction. Inspired, no doubt, by that nuke attack. And is he going to be successful at taking out this nuke launcher? It certainly looks like it might. Just a couple more missiles will do it. Bosh! What a wonderful act of revenge right there. He'll probably lose all of his cruisers to torpedo bomber attacks. But he'll take a lot of those with him. That's got to feel good. He's also pushing out on the ground. He's managed to bag himself and Ithota. 2 stars in Vet. But that ice washer, the Awasar we saw in production earlier for Tesla Max, that's been completed. And with the air dominance for Team 2, that should be able to be utilized to great effect. Oh, it's a lot of dead offhams. Brittle, just as he was about to break into the main base over here for Tesla Max, who's completely light on the ground in terms of his own ground forces, has got a friendly Ithota in the area down here, though. And Ithota on the eastern front that's ploughed its way through those forward bases for Mofo, now looking to try and make a play on the backfield, but it's just getting crushed from the sky. Awasar taking no prisoners, and here comes a massive wave of cormorants. That should surely be enough. So many torpedoes. There was some flak in the area, but it was just a little bit too far behind. It's looking very even right now. It's 1.4k to 1.3k in favor of Team 2. Sometimes dipping up to the 1.5k area. What have we got here? An Ithota from Brittle that's made it all the way down the coastline, and Tesla Max very near to said coastline with his comm. Ithota for Brittle drawing fire. It looks like he's making a beeline for that commander, however. Oh, but he's going to get intercepted, but he's in range. Opens up that cannon. There's the ball of death plasma. Tesla Max going to get caught out. Wow. What a wonderful snag. Brittle bags another one. 3 down, all to 1 man. Our Joeyest of Joes in the center. What an absolute legend. Gotta feel good to have a game like this. What shot that down? Did that die to anti-aircraft fire from that aircraft carrier? They do put out a lot of damage. Oh, things not looking... Oh, no, of course not. Of course not. That belongs to... But that should have transferred over, right? That must have died at just coincidentally at the same time. Otherwise, it should have transferred over to Wekva. I was thinking for a minute, yeah, he just died, but it's full share. What are you talking about, Guile? Talking nonsense. Last vestiges of that old base still remain on the southern nipple. For how long? And after all the punishment, the attacks have really petered out on this side. Look at the transformation from Freedom. Massive T1 spam now just heading south, tying up any inbound units. And a proper re-establishment of naval presence underway. Well, 1 naval yard. I might have oversold that a bit. When I was zoomed out, there was lots of green dots. It looked more impressive than it was. But hey, he's in the water. That's a positive, right? If you're rooting for Team 1. All of you that thought Team 2 were going to pull it out of the bag. Well, they've got some catch-up to do now. It's a 2v4 aircraft carrier. No, it's a battleship this time. There's the aircraft carrier. Battleship drawing fire from whalers. Putting out some decent AA of its own. Oh my god, you kidding me? 700 hit points, it survives. Whalers did not like the sign of that aircraft carrier. Battleship needs to return to base and get repped up ASAP. Interestingly enough, oh my god, just what I say, I was about to say we haven't seen anything from Hyper and his telemaser. He completed it ages ago. Who's he going for? There's only one comm who's vulnerable and out of the water. That's Swagula. Is he going for a comm kill at all? There's the attack ping. But I'm not seeing the exit point. Did he cancel it? Oh, he just moved over there. Got you all excited there. Apologies for that. I was just zooming in. I was literally about to say, we saw him complete the laser ages ago. I imagine he went straight for the teleporter after that. And here we go again. Is this just another redirect somewhere in the south, or is this the attack? Mofo is close to the coastline, but not on it. And he is going after Swagula, who's going to wish he was in the water also before too long. He's seen it now, and he's moving in the wrong direction. Oh dear, surprise! Well, they claw one back in the most cowardly Cybran fashion possible, but a kill's a kill. And Swagula is down and out. And worse yet still, he's still alive and able to dish out some damage. Hasn't zapped back to base yet. Takes the opportunity to take out a scrying tool and some P-gens. Could have taken out all of the air factories. Has blown a couple of them. Taken out a few reactors. So I started looking for an air snipe, says Swagula. Well, again, 40 minutes in, if you're not going to reside in the water, you need your bank of T1 PDs if you're facing off against any Cybran players, because that is always an option. Higher tier pros, constant scouting. They seem to manage to predict those tele-snipes and scout them out before they're actually enacted. Not every time, admittedly, but more times than not. When you're at this level, those things certainly can sneak up on you. And speaking of sneaking up on you, a massive robot in through the front door. Freedom, who was looking like he was really getting established here, has a large Seraphim assault bot problem, stomping its way through towards the main base. Reactors unshielded. No point defense. Has got a megalith chasing it though. If it gets deep enough in, the Iron Storm's going to cause its own problems. Has it taken down an SMD?
Strategic launch detected.
There's certainly an inbound nuke. Ethota taken care of. Second nuke out also. Where's that one going? Going to the same place? No, it looks like it's going up towards the rear island. So this could be a devastating nuclear strike. Is this the start of Team 2's comeback? Freedom going to lose his own base and potentially the rear base? No, that drifts just a little bit too close to that strategic missile defense there of Brittle, who's still got another anti-nuke loaded. So Brittle saves that rear base. Mofo moving up on this megalith that's made it all the way to the front of Brittle's base. It's getting double teamed right now by a couple of Ethotas and a ton of Notha fighter bombers circling overhead. More than enough to take that down and keep both of the Ethotas alive, albeit one of them very badly damaged. And yet still, 41 minutes in, not a single naval yard has gone up for Team 2 in this eastern pond. And now, of course, what have we got? Mofo pushing down this coastline again. I can't believe that I guess he thought, well, my responsibility's air. Everybody over here died pretty quick and dropped the ball. But wouldn't you at least try to spam out some naval vessels to hold this inevitable attack up just a bit? I think it would have been worth a shout. And the problem is now we've got that aircraft carrier and at least 4 or 5, and another, oh my god, tons and tons of cruisers, a second aircraft carrier. So engaging this fleet now with gunships becomes tricky. Oh, but look at this massive T2 torp bomber snipe. What? That's outrageous. Look at the torps following him in the air straight towards the beach. Freedom somehow escapes a massive snipe attempt, and that would have been very, very clutch indeed from Hyper if he was able to pull that off. Have to settle for the consolation prize of eradicating Brittle's ASF force. Are those his own ones? Yes, it is. Yes, they are. Lots and lots of air production facilities in there. They weren't gifted over from Freedom, who just doesn't have the eco to utilize these facilities at full burn. It's trying to pump units out on the ground, trying to get involved in the naval side of things, trying to produce naval defenses over here. He's managed to spit out a Colossus to his credit. Not the fighter bomber's going to help shut this attack down, but they're going to get blasted pretty hard. Lovely, lovely engage from the coastline. Only a couple of vessels going to make it through into the backfield. But that's one destroyer and 3 cruisers. 1 harm's operational, though. Those harms take down, or that harms takes down 2 cruisers because he didn't stroll the last one out of range. That's painful. Torpedo bombers dispatched to try and deal. Oh my god, he hasn't got that one out either. Weckfer missed opportunities there to nuzzle in at the top of the screen and take down some of these reactors. I'm going to say it's poor execution, but it's not brilliant execution. Not sure how much difference it would have made in the grand scheme of things. Those torp bombers were produced in lightning speed. Reactors queued up over there, and we've got some strategic missile defense in play in the backfield. That's got 3 loaded, so actually that might have been in play already. So even if Brittle hadn't caught the edge of that inbound nuke, that probably would have shot it down. Oh no! And there, the inevitable attack from the east. Twitchy Mosfo's fleet, which has been allowed to grow, now sitting off the eastern edge of this island. Thota brought in to help defend, but he's can quite happily sit out of range back here as long as he's paying attention. So Hyper, now soon to be baseless, has got himself a cohort of support commanders. A RAS preset, yes they are, so he's still going to retain some modicum of income. But Team 2 now pulling in 1.1k in total versus 1.3k, so that's not as big a deficit as I thought they might be running. Could have been a lot worse, although it's continuing to fall with this assault on the island progressing. Dipping sub 1k there momentarily. They're only 30,000 mass down in terms of total mass. Oh, and Hyper goes for another tele-snipe attempt. This one not so successful. Brittle was waiting for him, I'm guessing, with a bunch of T1 PD. Oh, and a sniper bot or 2 kicking around.
Strategic launch detected.
Was he just going after the base? Where's Brittle's comm? Brittle's comm's all the way back here with lots of defense around his comm. That was just literally an attempt maybe to go after SMD. That was his SMD. So that's why his inbound nukes. Yolona Os under construction right at the back there and nearly completed. 9,600 HP of 12,000. So he gave up his life to create an opening. And that will deal with the Yolona Os. That's a painful, painful kill. When you're that far through a game ender, that's got to really hurt, but I just don't see that that's enough to turn the tide here. Nothing remains in what was Hyper's old island. Megalith underwater on this western coast. 47 minutes in. Oh, and look at that. Nithota breaks into the main base of Wektha. Unable to score any major damage. These two nuke launchers gonna have to go as far as Team 1 are concerned. Gotta find a way to get in there. How many ASFs do we have now for... Well, they're all interceptors. That's T1 interceptors. Where is... Are they dead? Wow. So he's got a lot of aircraft carriers down here. I think the planes are loaded on those. Wave of spy planes out from Freedom, who for the first time in a long time seems to have a little bit of peace and quiet in his main base area. Aircraft carriers getting tickled to death by a horde of underwater offhams. Needs to get some destroyers on the scene. I don't know why they're holding back quite so far. It hasn't actually got any destroyers at all. It's all aircraft carriers, cruisers, and the occasional battleship. So this is the one thing he can't actually deal with. Some underwater torpedo-capable attacks. And speaking of which, on the west coast, that megalith's still stomping around. He's got 99,000 hit points. He's actually tanking the inbound fire very well. We've only got couple of destroyers up here. Soon to be a fair fewer of them. Build capacity gets to work on some torpedo launchers. There goes one of the destroyers. Sounds like this was a pretty laggy game for our players. Zelda had a rough ping by the sounds of things. Not much that can be done about that. As we tick over 50 minutes, a reminder that this is the best way to interact with Subcom. We don't have to deal with lagginess here. Sit back and watch the action. T3 mass extractors getting picked off. That one might survive actually, as the cruiser aircraft carrier. Since when did aircraft carriers fire cruise missiles? Was that really coming off that? That doesn't say it's capable. There must have been a cruiser in there. Answers in the comment section below if you saw that more clearly than I did. I'm sure there's a decent number of you that did. Ooh, and a Colossus moves in to join the Megalith now. Megalith, who's absorbing a fair amount of damage from destroyers and torpedo launchers, although the torpedo launchers seem to have redirected towards the Colossus. Colossus, which is making a beeline for the coast. Are these two going to finally emerge out of the water together and put the smackdown on this main base? It's now or never, because there's a Yelena Os under construction, this time for Wektha on Team 2. And that's 7,500 hit points complete out of the 12,000. Freedom, who has been on his knees throughout this match against Wektha. Is he about to finally get some revenge? He's going to successfully kill off the Ithota. That's going to do a fair amount of damage with its Ion Storm. It now has to be contended with. There's no other route for these two experimentals to take. They're going to have to move in and put a stop to this. Oh, Megalith down to 16,000 hit points, but shields starting to capitulate. GC picking off some T2 reactors in the area. Both of these marching on towards the main power grid. Megalith is down, as are a bunch of the reactors. Colossus with 27,000 hit points remaining. The shield finally collapses, surrounding or covering the nuke launchers, and they finally go down in a colossal chain reaction. Rank in veterancy replenishes the health on the Colossus, enough for him to get a little bit more time in here. Is he going to finally manage to deal with the launcher? Yes, he does. And that is surely the last best hope of Wekthar of getting back into this game. Done and dusted. And there is the capitulation. Where was his comm at the end there? Can't even see it. Did he Control K it? Can't see any other explosions. Hordes of you now going, God, that's what you always do this. But I hope you enjoyed it anyway, guys. Don't forget, if you feel so inclined, the best way to support me is through Patreon. We are up to almost 100 premium content casts, all ad-free, of course, on the Patreon channel. I'd like to award today's MVP. You know who I'm going to say. Brittle. 3 deaths, 3 hostile kills, something like that. All to him. Bagged the 2 comms over here in the east. And then grabbed another one down here in the south. Multiple solid defensive plays. It's got to be him. But well done, Team 1 across the board. Anyway, if you disagree and you have another opinion, do let me know in the comments section below. But until next time, guys, stay well and stay safe. This is Guile, signing out.